Connecticut East this week is supported by CT Examiner, a multi-award-winning online newspaper covering stories from across the state, from politics to business, health, education, and the arts. For just a $20 annual subscription, CT Examiner will let you know what's happening where you live. ctexaminer.com, reporting and supporting what matters. They created an iconic apparel brand, Just Mystic, with a simple, clean and classic look. Now the brother and sister team have branched out with a new store, Just Portsmouth in New Hampshire. Plus we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. Back in 2021, brother and sister Robert Nelson and Amanda Cummings popped up a tent next to the Oyster Club in downtown Mystic, testing apparel and branding that later went on to become Just Mystic. Connecticut East This Week interviewed them over 2 years ago as they continued to see success with their boutique store and brand. Now with a new store in a new state sporting the same simple, clean and classic look, I caught up with them for a catch-up chat on their continued Just Brand's success. Joining us on the podcast for their second time, it's 2.5 years actually since we last spoke to you. It's Rob and Amanda from the Just Brand. And we're saying Just Brand because when I spoke to you both 2.5 years ago, it was Just Mystic. And now you've moved on quite considerably from Just Mystic. So first of all, welcome back to both of you to Connecticut East This Week.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So talk to us about the fact that, as I say, 2.5 years since we've spoken to you, a lot has happened, not only here in Mystic, but elsewhere. Who wants to kick it off, Amanda?
Sure. Yeah, 2.5 years ago, we were in another space just right down the street, the old toy store, which is now Mystic Fish Camp, which is awesome. So we moved here in January of 24.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of renovations and opened up April.
So you're in a much bigger store. I mean, what's this, about 3 times the size of the other place?
Yes.
About that,
yes.
So what drove the direction? I mean, not places need to expand, but I mean, when we spoke to you last time, you were about to celebrate a year at that location. So what then drove the expansion and the move further into Mystic, Rob?
Well, we knew that we had a finite amount of time in our first location, and you know the Whalers Inn, they're the owners of that property now, and they were very, very generous to even lease that property to us as they were figuring out what they wanted to do with the space. And of course, as we mentioned, they've now opened Mystic Fish Camp. So we knew it was finite, and we knew we needed to find a new location and a bigger location because we knew we had bigger growth aspirations. So some of it was just simply a matter of time, and it was also a matter of us just needing to grow the business.
How has it changed for you? Because, I mean, Mystic is always busy. Even now as we record this in the fall, there's still plenty of foot traffic happening. It helps the weather is good. You were in a particularly good location. I'm not saying this isn't a good location, but I mean, you were right by the bridge, lots of foot traffic. How has the dynamic changed in the new location?
I think actually has increased, but maybe just because we have more awareness about us. The other thing that we have added is a photo booth. So that obviously brings people in as well. So I think that in that sense, and I just feel like Mystic in itself is just still a culinary destination, and it's just bringing more people every year.
Yeah, the photo booth, where did that come from? Because it seems to be very popular.
We had too many dressing rooms and just thought, hey, let's add a photo booth. I mean, it wasn't as easy as that, but it's been amazing, yeah.
People always ask us, and so we have a photo booth in both locations, which we'll get to, I'm sure, but people always ask whose idea it was. And so it was Amanda's idea to do the photo booth. And then once she mentioned the photo booth, then all the wheels started turning for me.
Yeah.
In terms of like, oh, we could do this with it, we could do this with it. There's just a lot of marketing opportunity around it. But all credit to Amanda and the initial idea of the photo booth. And to the first question, I mean, I think this location is actually a little bit better than where we were because we're kind of in the heart of downtown now, right at the center of all the main shops, really. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so it's really been a big increase in foot traffic here.
As we sit here, as we say, inside the very New England style store, obviously that brand is still very much part and parcel of your overall brand. It looks to me as well that you've got a lot more things available, not just in the apparel. I'm looking at like glasses and hats, etc. So how much more have you expanded into in those past couple of years by way of different types of branded goods?
We've been very thoughtful and very intentional in what we've expanded to, because we don't want it to be a place that's too busy and has too many things. So it's been a thoughtful expansion, but we've probably expanded our catalog 20% in terms of new products and new styles, both in apparel and accessories.
And what types of things have you brought on?
We definitely have added more to our kids section. We added sweaters, definitely more hats, and then also brought into more of our Coastie line, which has been really appealing to most people.
Yeah, talk to us about that, because I noticed that on the website as I was doing my little bit of pre-research before I came down. And Coastie's here where we are is the Coast Guards.
Correct.
So it is the Coast Guard, but it's moved on.
Yeah, it kind of resonates with anyone living along the coast. So it's been really catchy. People love the word Coastie in itself. So we've kind of expanded on that line. It's been going great with that, yeah.
How did the Coast Guard take to it? Because they love that whole thing as well, don't they?
Well, it kind of depends on who you talk to,
Yeah.
because some people in the Coast Guard do like it, but officially they don't like it. And so it's really not a term that they've even really tried to officially grab, which is why we're in the process of trademarking it. And it's been a very fascinating journey to see the Coastie line, because it just almost seems like there's a new affinity group every week who seems to attach some kind of meaning to it. As Amanda mentioned, some of it's just, if you live on the coast. But in our shop in Portsmouth just yesterday, there was a woman who came in. She lives in San Francisco. And she was like, this is perfect. I wanted something to represent my trip in the East Coast. And this just seems to hit all the right things. And she's like, and it's kind of a political statement. She's like, but I won't bore you with that. Anyway, so I guess that there's even some, maybe, for some people, it even goes that far. But yeah, it's really just a playful term. And we've definitely expanded that line. We see a lot of opportunity with it. And also, we've added the rugbies as well.
So let's talk about the expansion, because we've still got plenty of other questions we want to talk to you about. You have expanded to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, a beautiful city in the great state of New Hampshire. Why did you pick Portsmouth, New Hampshire? You could have picked any other place, but you decided on that. So tell us the backstory to it.
Yeah, Amanda and I were ready to expand. We felt like we had built a really great foundation in Mystic and with just our overall brand aspirations, and we went on a big recon throughout the Northeast. And we had actually done a little bit of recon even down on the southern shore, down that way last year. But we did a more intentional trip, a couple of trips up and down the Northeast coast. And Portsmouth was just kind of immediately checked all the boxes for us. It just kind of felt right. It felt like basically a bigger Mystic. And it was a place we went back to multiple times, and it really just kind of felt right. And after looking at a number of other locations, probably 15 other locations, it was just obvious that was the next spot.
So it opened, June of 2025, is that correct? So fairly new. Tell us how it's going.
It's going great, yeah. We quickly secured the space on May 1st and got to work again, renovating. And if you saw before and after, it was a lot of work done and sure on time, but it's going great. Definitely a different feel as far as a bigger Mystic, but it's great. We have still that community feel. You have the hometown people, then you have the tourists. So we're just trying to make a presence there, and it's so far so good.
How hands-on are both of you when it comes to doing sort of the renovations? Because I get the impression that you're probably both quite involved in it, not just from the point of pointing out to contractors this, and this. I just get the feeling that, Amanda, you pick up a drill and probably do stuff.
Well, we definitely have a great contractor that we work with, but, design-wise, I kind of just want to keep the same feel. So when you walk into both spaces, you feel like you're in the same store, which people have mentioned. This looks just like the store in Mystic. So that, in a sense, was easier for me, not to start from scratch, but to kind of pull that space together. The simple, clean, classic, and the modern coastal feel. So that's what that store has. But yeah, we just kind of played off this kind of space, and it just works there as well.
The fact that you've now got 2 physical locations, does that make you a chain?
I'm sure I enjoy the word chain.
Or do you want to be known as a chain?
I feel like there's probably, I don't know, if we ask ChatGPT what number of stores makes you a chain, it'd probably be 10 plus. I think we're still too much of a boutique brand to be a chain.
Yeah.
We're so involved in the day-to-day operations, and if you really go look at some chains and just how they're operating, especially behind the scenes, it just looks very different. Yeah, so I don't know that we're a chain yet. I don't know if we would ever want to be a chain. We'd definitely like to expand to have a few more stores potentially, but I don't know if chain would ever be a word that we'd want to have.
Right.
We've sworn at you. It's a word never to be used again, obviously, in your presence. Talk to us a little bit more, obviously, about Portsmouth, New Hampshire, because a lot of people may not know a lot about it. It is a fairly sizable city. I believe it's got a population of just over about 20,000, so it is fairly sizable. I think it's like quite an artsy and foodie place as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and in that sense, it really is like a bigger Mystic. It has a very strong community. It is bigger, I think it's actually about 30,000 residents in the broader area. There's a fairly large airport nearby, and there's a Air Force base right there, so you have that. So it's just generally a bigger place, a bigger economy, but a very, very strong, tight-knit community. They love their holidays. They have a huge parade. It turns into a Hallmark Christmas movie, basically, in a couple months, a lot of decorations for Christmas. So there's just a lot of community involvement and some great restaurants and just like a really great local population.
The reason we also chose it is just felt just like another like home for us. When we kept going back, it was like a cute little like coffee shop. Was it Joe's? Cup of Joe's.
Yeah,
we just kept going back. Then we walked in there like, oh my God, this just feels like home. So because we traveled all the way to Camden, Maine to Cape May, New Jersey. And that was the place we just kept going back to because it did feel like a small town, but big town, bigger than Mystic, but had that same quintessential New England feel to it.
How much time are you finding that you're spending between the two locations now? I mean, are you splitting your time? Or?
I am a bit more here. Rob is definitely spending a lot.
I'm up there
all his time there. He's there.
For now.
So I try and go up like twice a month at this point, but it's pretty much being well managed right now.
Community is everything. When we last spoke to you, you like to be involved in your community. You are involved in your community. Talk to us about Mystic Fish Camp, because we would be remiss if we didn't mention this. As you said, your first physical location was at what used to be a toy store, now is Mystic Fish Camp. But your connection hasn't stopped with that location, has it?
No, not at all. We're just super grateful that the Whalers Inn ownership, Amanda Arling, who's the president there, that she's really continue to have a lot of trust in us. And the creative director for Whalers Inn and Fish Camp, Kathleen Standridge, also has a lot of trust in us. And they love what we do, and they love our products. And so, when they started, probably several months out before they opened, they hit us up and asked if we could help with producing apparel for their store. So it's been really awesome. It all came out super well. We've had a great relationship and producing all of it and going through the samples and quality checking, all that. And so we're just super grateful for that, and we'll hopefully see that continue to expand.
And apart from Mystic Fish Camp, Project Oceanology, another big, well-known non-profit in this area. Amanda, talk to us about that connection, because that means a lot to you guys as well, and you do something for them.
Yeah, I mean, we do their T-shirts for their kids' camp, which we love, and it's our third year doing it, and they pick a new sea creature design, so that's always fun to come up with. But yeah, the kids decorate the T-shirts, so it's just like a nice little keepsake they have at the end of the camp. But Rob can talk more about the connection as far as with Andrew and how that came about.
Andrew, he's actually a coastie, a retired Coast Guard member, and I'm a veteran as well, and we just kind of had an initial early on connection from veteran to veteran, but also because we believe in their mission. And as mentioned, we started producing T-shirts for their summer camp, but now we've expanded to also producing other apparel for them, so sweatshirts, hoodies, sun shirts. So we see that continue to grow too, which is really cool. But there's kind of a mutual respect between our business and theirs, and so that's just been an evolving relationship, and we just have a really good relationship with their senior leadership.
Wholesale has become something that you're very much involved in more. Talk to us about that, Rob, because that's a bit of a departure from what we're doing right now, sitting here in this beautiful physical location.
We really almost from day one realized we have specific skills and capabilities that we can leverage, and that's design, that's sourcing, it's production. And so we can do it for our own brand, but why not do it for other brands, whether it's a boutique or a restaurant or a hotel, or we're now working with prep schools and universities. And so it just felt like kind of a natural fit with what we do already and what we like to do. So we've been growing that business quite significantly, really in parallel with our own stores. And one of our big new customers this past year has been the U.S. Coast Guard. So we're now designing, producing, and supplying a lot of products for the Coast Guard exchanges, which are kind of like department stores on bases. And we've also expanded to a couple of prep schools, including Loomis Chaffee up in Windsor, Connecticut. So it's been a really awesome growth journey, and we're working very hard to continue to expand that too.
When we spoke to you the first time around, we talked about sourcing, obviously the clothing industry, the apparel industry. A lot of it is made overseas. We have seen a change in administration here, and the challenges of business have become more so, as well as tariffs. How are you weathering that storm as a small business, would you say?
Luckily, so far, we've seen most recently a pause in the tariffs with regard to China, which is our primary location for sourcing. So at the moment, it's been okay. We did see a little blip for a while. When the administration first came on board, we did see an increase in shipping costs in particular. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of an unsettling time, and we don't know exactly where things are going to go, and we're just trying to manage our costs as best we can and try not to pass too many costs on to customers. We're trying to absorb as much of it as we can. But a lot of it is just kind of a wait and see.
One of the other questions I asked you, Rob, when we did the original interview, you formerly worked for the Nike brand for a few years, and I asked you the question whether or not there were lessons that you learned that you could use to sort of like scale down to another business. Do you feel that you've used any more of those skills as the Just brand has continued to grow, as it were?
Well, I think when you first asked that question, the answer I gave was that you can scale down professionalism. And I think that no matter what size organization you are, you can operate with a high level of professionalism. And I think we still try to do that. And we're still trying to do that every day with our teams and just how we operate. So I think that's still my consistent answer with that. But yeah, I mean, I think also we can always look at Nike and just how they try to elevate everything they do. And they have a very, very high bar for how they run their retail stores and just the aesthetic of it. And I think they're just always kind of a good benchmark to look at no matter how big you are.
And Amanda, how do you feel that you've grown as an entrepreneur and as a business person as well over these number of years? Because it's been a while now since both of you took that jump. I think it was way back in 2021 when you decided to start all of this. Does it seem that long ago?
It does and it doesn't. Just looking back in pictures, we're actually coming up on our 4-year anniversary. It was October 9th, and we actually had the pop-up on the side of the road, just testing the market. So I've definitely learned way more than I have ever expected, and it's been amazing, but definitely worn a lot of hats that I wasn't expecting. So I guess just on the creative side, the business side, learning, just more about like the overseas, like the ordering, and we hired a few design people to work with us. So just going back and forth with them. So that's been great as well. So I don't have to hold all of that weight.
What would you say over the past 4 years has been, to you personally, the most gratifying, you got the most out of?
Just seeing us grow, actually becoming a brand. Like, never thought in a million years that we'd become a brand. It was awesome that we had the design and the business down, but becoming a brand in itself has been pretty cool to see.
Man, it's a really tough question. I don't know. The whole thing's been incredibly satisfying. I think probably opening a second store has been really the most. It's been incredibly hard, incredibly stressful. This has been the most stressful year of my life. For a lot of reasons. I've gone through a lot of personal life changes, but it's also been the most satisfying. And I think, seeing a second store, because it just validates that we have this concept that we believe in, a business model that we believe in, and it can scale. And so I think that's very satisfying. And then also kind of similar on the wholesale side, just seeing that hey, we have really great capabilities and they do work for wholesale customers, and our wholesale customers love them and they want to work with us again and again. So I think, just the expansion of our brand and our wholesale business has been pretty phenomenal. But many days I also think, man, if I had run this business before going to business school, I would have learned a lot more in business school, because there's just a lot of concepts you learn in business school that are really, really hard to apply in the abstract.
I will say it is still kind of driving into Mystic and seeing a store here. It's just kind of takes me back a little bit. I can't believe it. So that kind of feeling, I think it will still feel that. Even driving into Portsmouth 2.5 hours and having a store there as well. The expansion, I think, also made us feel like we have this concept or this slogan that says your town's university store, and people kind of also resonate with that. So it's another idea that's becoming more focused on.
A question I asked you 2.5 years ago as well, Amanda, was what's it like to see people walking around in your products? So 2.5 years on, what does it mean to you now?
It's great. Like I have my kids up there in Portsmouth, and I'm like, look, someone's carrying a bag. I'm still like excited to see that, and our branding like out there on the street or in a restaurant, someone has on the table. So it's still pretty exciting. I don't know if that'll ever get old.
What do you think the future holds further on?
We have a few different paths that we can take and how well we can focus on each path to do it at the level of quality that we want to. But adding another store or two, certainly, and a lot of that comes down to luck and timing. It's very hard to get prime real estate, and that's what you have to have. But if we can find that in the right location, then that's definitely on the map. Continue to grow the wholesale business. We have a university-style collegiate aesthetic, and so I think in particular working with more prep schools and more universities is something that's on the map, and we're actively working towards that. We'd love to work with Conn College, for instance, as a local university, and University of New Hampshire, local to Portsmouth, and other universities in the region. So that's on the map. And our photo booth business, it's a really great business. It's a great business model, just financially and technically, but it's also just something that people really love. And obviously, like, when you're creating a business, you want to create something that people love, and it's not just about the money. And like, people literally have so much fun in there. It's like when they close that curtain, it's like they're in Narnia. They forget that they are in a space, and they just have a great time. So we're looking at ways that we can expand our photo booth business.
Because you're very social media driven. I mean, I will give you this, that there's always something on social media that's either been, I guess, created by you or has been created on your behalf. I mean, was that also important as well? Because it certainly does seem to drive interest in the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our target audience definitely falls into that Instagram category, so we definitely want to create awareness through that. And then through the photo booth, you're emailed the pictures, so people can post those on their stories, which happens time and time again. So I think that's been a great thing for us, is having the stories, tagging us, but Instagram itself, I feel like, isn't going anywhere, and it's just a great advertising tool.
Well, it's been great talking to you both. Thank you for inviting us back. Continued success, and congratulations with the opening of the second store in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We'll try not to leave it 2.5 years again, but we'll see what happens. And thank you, as I say, for inviting us back, Robert Nelson and Amanda Cummings of the Just brand. Thanks for being on the podcast again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you want to find out more about the Just brand here in Connecticut or in New Hampshire, then head over to their website at justbrandapparel.com, where you can also shop online. Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week, supported by cityexaminer.com, reporting and supporting what matters. Save the Sound has released its annual bacteria monitoring season report for Western Long Island Sound, and for the second year has seen overall failure rates drop. The Environmental Action Group collected 745 water samples from 66 locations from Greenwich in Connecticut to Nassau County in New York. Peter Linderoth is Director of Healthy Waters and Lands at Save the Sound and said the news is good, but it can always be better.
Over half of our dry weather samples also failed the safe swimming criteria. That really points to aging sanitary sewer infrastructure. Those pipes can get degraded over time, and the Northeast, certainly in our area, has really old pipes underground, and they literally start to ooze untreated sewage into groundwater and maybe into very old stormwater infrastructure as well. And that sewage can make its way to our rivers and shoreline and beaches and Long Island Sound.
Linderoth says rivers remain the most polluted type of site they sample each year. And at the end of the day, humans are the biggest polluters.
When you think about this type of bacteria, I mean, human activities, again, not just literally flushing the toilet, but development across the board. I mean, it's really important to be smart about development. Population growth is going to occur, no doubt about it. But as things are developed, limiting impervious coverage increases, going for mixed zoning, for example, where possible, and definitely making sure that extra wastewater is being treated properly, absolutely critical to a healthy Long Island Sound.
Water sampling is undertaken by Save the Sound and community scientists across Connecticut and New York once a week for 12 weeks during monitoring season. Only 3 swimming locations went the entire 2025 season without a failing sample. They were Glen Island Park in New York and Greenwich Cove and Indian Harbor Yacht Club, both in Connecticut. South Coast Wind and Offshore Wind project that Connecticut passed over due to perceived high costs that will deliver electricity to New England states has been put on hold stalled by the Trump administration just weeks after it obtained permitting approvals to move ahead. The 2,400-megawatt offshore wind project was to be based 23 miles south of Nantucket and provide clean power to Massachusetts and Rhode Island. However, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, has been instructed to review their environmental impact statement on the project, saying they may have understated or obfuscated impacts from the project on the island of Nantucket. BOEM are to reevaluate the project's compliance under the National Environmental Policy Act and the National Historic Preservation Act, and their new decision could either approve, disapprove, or approve the project with new conditions. Michael Brown is CEO of South Coast Wind and said in a statement they are seriously concerned regarding the decision taken on November 4th, allowing the remand of its legally approved construction and operations plan. Brown says since acquiring the lease during Trump's first administration, they have invested more than $600 million into the project. He says the company is reviewing the situation and whether to seek a legal remedy. A Connecticut bill aims to reform school crisis response drills. Edwin J. Vieira from the Public News Service has this report.
House Bill 7077 calls for the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, working with the Connecticut Center for School Safety and Crisis Prevention, to develop guidance for trauma-informed crisis response drills. It also calls for a study on the impacts of crisis response drills on the school community. Stacey Mayer with Connecticut Against Gun Violence says these new drills can be more effective.
By doing things this way, it will reduce anxiety, it will prioritize psychological health of students, it will make sure kids aren't being re-traumatized. Often for children who have experienced trauma outside of school, including violence at home and other trauma, lockdown drills can be especially difficult and damaging.
Active shooter drills have been shown to have vast mental and physical health impacts. A 2021 study finds active shooter drills have led to increases in stress, anxiety, and depression for teachers, high schoolers, and parents. The American Federation of Teachers passed a resolution opposing these drills, noting they're not effective at stopping a school shooting from happening and can be harmful to students. I'm Edwin J. Vieira.
And in the CT Examiner this week, Amy Wu reports on the landslide victory by businessman Bill Middleton in the recent local elections in clinching Stonington's first selectman's seat. Middleton, who ran as an unaffiliated candidate and was endorsed by the Democratic Party and Connecticut Forward Party, said he's looking forward to going into a smooth transition and keeping up the momentum. Middleton plans to hit the ground running when he's sworn in on November 18th. During a 2-week transition period, he plans to meet with outgoing First Selectman Danielle Cheeseborough, who has held the position since 2019. Cheeseborough has said she will be focused on growing the Connecticut Forward Party, which she chairs and projects at the United Nations, where she previously worked. And Francisco Uranga reports on the fact that turnout for the recent local elections this time around were slightly up, but the state's cities lagged behind. Statewide voter turnout in Connecticut's local elections peaked at 35.9% this year, the highest participation rate since 2017. That's according to data from the Secretary of the State. But that surge was far from evenly distributed, with larger Connecticut cities showing far lower numbers of voters heading to the polls, particularly those without a mayoral election. Hartford and Bridgeport recorded turnout rates below 5%, while Waterbury was under 17%. The mayors in all three have 4-year terms and were elected in 2023. Small towns registered strong participation levels, however, in the 2025 local elections, especially where a close race was expected. In 17 towns, more than 50% of eligible voters cast ballots. Lyme led the state with a 66% turnout, followed by Bridgewater at 62.9%, Woodbridge at 61.8%, and Old Lyme at 60.5%. Fully certified results from the local elections should be available on the Secretary of the State's website after November 14th. You can read Amy and Francisco's stories by visiting ctexaminer.com. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East and on Instagram at Connecticut East This Week. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week podcast. And please like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.